Okay. Talking about something I'm very passionate about, so let's see how long this video is. So, when I say worst book to screen adaptation, which one comes to mind? Maybe it's Percy Jackson or City of Bones, the last few seasons of Game of Thrones, or even the critically acclaimed, wonderful, and beautiful movie that is The Vampire Academy. Fight me on that. Whatever it is, we can all agree that there are some pretty bad book-to-screen adaptations. They've flopped in the past. But what if I told you that book-to-screen adaptations are no longer guaranteed stinkers? Did you say I'm lying? Well, I don't think I am. I truly think book-to-screen adaptations are getting better. And we really only have social media to thank for it. Well, not only social media, but it is a huge factor in it. Another influence is the many book-to-screen adaptations that have failed in the past, like the ones I mentioned before, but even some that I didn't mention. I think the boom in book influencers such as Book Talk and BookTube and stuff like that, they have created this community to where they can critique bodies of work that they love, and it gives the people who are trying to adapt them to either the big screen or the small screen easy access to what the built-in audience wants to see or wants to change. A book-to-screen adaptation that is widely agreed upon to be a very good adaptation is Shadow&Bone. It is agreed to be amazing by both old and new fans. The Shadow&Bone is a series that was developed by Netflix, and it's based off of two books written by Leigh Bardugo, which are Shadow&Bone and Six of Crows. I decided to combine both of these books because they take place within the same world, and Six of Crows is one of the more beloved books in this whole universe with fans, so they wanted to incorporate a book that was widely loved by fans, but also then the beginnings of this world. So the story of the books that this series was based off of is with Shadow&Bone. There is a girl named Alina. She lives in the fictional country of Ravka. She's in the Ravkan army as a map maker, which they are called the First Army. They are made up of humans, and they are an army. Her story is all about her figuring out that she's this like mythical being. And then there is the Second Army, which is made up of these magical beings called Grisha. They are divided into three factions, which is the Corporalkai, Etherealkai, and Materialkai. Corporalkai deal with the human body, so they can heal people, they can control like your heart, stuff like that. And there's the Etherealkai, which they deal with the elements such as earth, wind, fire, stuff like that. Alina is the special type of Grisha, and she controls light. She is the sun summoner. And then the Materialkai deal with materials. So those are the Grisha. Six of Crows is set in a fictional city within our universe of the Grishaverse called Ketterdam, which is kind of like the Chicago of that world. It's not for the faint of heart. It's very rough. It's a very rough city. I would like to preface this. I really love Six of Crows, so much to where I have a tattoo of Six of Crows. This is one of two Six of Crows inspired tattoos that I have, so I'm very passionate about this. So our six main characters, which are Kaz Brecker, Inej Gaffa, Jesper Fahey, Matthias Helvar, Nina Zinnick, and Wyland Van Eck, are a part of this gang called the Dregs, and they are hired to do a heist in the book Six of Crows. Now this heist is not in the show Shadow&Bone, because within the book we get flashbacks of every character. We get to see how they ended up in Ketterdam, how they ended up in this gang, things like that. So their flashbacks in Six of Crows is their story in the TV show Shadow&Bone. So that's kind of how they incorporated them into this show. Now we're going to get into the ratings of the book, the TV show, and some differences between them. Shadow&Bone has an overall rating of 4 out of 5 stars on the platform of Goodreads, which is a very popular book reviewing app. It has roughly 784,000 reviews, with 31% of those reviews being 5 out of 5, and about 1% of those reviews being 1 out of 5 stars. Now, Six of Crows has an overall rating of 4.5 stars on Goodreads, with almost 718,000 reviews, and 62% of those reviews are 5 out of 5 stars, and a little bit over 1% of those reviews are 1 out of 5 stars. So you can see that people really like Six of Crows. They like Six of Crows a lot better than they like Shadow and Bone. Now, the overall rating for the TV show is 7.6 out of 10 stars on IMDb. It has about 85,000 reviews, with 21% of those reviews being 10 out of 10 stars. Again, 1% of those reviews being 1 out of 10 stars. And the highest percentage of reviews is 28% being 8 out of 10 stars. So now we're going to get into the grievances that some people had with both Shadow and Bone and Six of Crows. I will say there's a lot more grievances that people had with Shadow and Bone. With Shadow and Bone, they thought that it was a little bit slow-paced with the book. Now, I will say the book was always planned to be a part of a trilogy, so I understand that Leigh Bardugo wanted to focus more on the world building in this book so that we didn't have any questions when it came to the other two books, where a lot of things were happening and there were a lot of moving parts. But there's still a way to make the first book in a series interesting. And while this book was interesting, it drug a little. Another grievance that some people had with this book, not a lot of fans, but just some casual readers of this book, was the age of the main character. Alina is supposed to be 17 in the book, and pretty sure they kept her around 17, 18 in the TV show. She's young. So it was just hard for people to wrap their head around someone 17 going through all of these things that she was going through, with figuring out that you were a completely different person than you thought you were, or a being that you thought you were, and the training, becoming a part of a different army, fighting a war. It was just, it's not brought up a whole bunch, so it's kind of jarring when you remember that she is only 17. Another grievance that some people had with Shadow and Bone is Alina's childhood best friend, Mal. He is, in the book, he is very annoying. Alina makes it very obvious that she has feelings for Mal. And because the book is solely from Alina's point of view, you don't really get to see things that Mal might do to kind of give you the notion that he likes her back or anything like that. The only time that he starts to show feelings for her is when the general of the Grisha army, his name is the Darkling, when he kind of expresses somewhat romantic interest in Alina, then Mal's kind of like, what the heck? I thought you liked me. So that kind of rubbed people the wrong way. Also, at one point in the book, Alina and the Darkling do end up making out a little. When Alina tells Mal about that, he weirdly slut-shames her. I don't know. It's very weird. So people had a lot of grievances about Mal's character in general. One of the only, critiques that fans had with Six of Crows is the age of the characters. In the book, the characters range from 15 to 18. That's their ages. Most of them are 16 or 17. I think the majority of them are 16 or 17. So they go through all of these things, and they go through very adult-like situations that to some people it just seems very unrealistic that 15 to 18-year-olds would be going through all of these things. But they do live in a rough city, and they are part of a gang, so I only think they're normal teenagers. Now we're going to talk about the differences between the books and the TV show, and some improvements that they made on the story or the characters or something like that. So one of the major differences from the book to the TV show is they aged up a lot of the characters. Like I mentioned before, there is the general of the Second Army, the Grisha Army. His name is the Darkling. He is aged up quite a bit. In the book, it seems he's only a few years older than Alina, so he's about 20. In the TV show, he's played by Ben Barnes, and he is obviously a lot older than he was written in the book. He seems to be about 40. So that made it a little bit more understanding with the power dynamic that the Darkling and Alina have. So it made it a lot more prominent than it is in the book. They also aged up most of the people from Six of Crows. I might refer to them as the Crows because that's what I call them. They did age up a lot of the people from Six of Crows. I think they made them roughly in their 20s, so it seems more realistic to viewers who haven't read the books that these people would be going through these things and they would be saying some of the things that they're saying. They also made it to where that the TV show is not from Alina's point of view. It's very much like just a viewer's point of view. So you see some things that Mal does that kind of lets you know that he might have romantic feelings for Alina.
I'll find my way back to you. I promise.
So it makes his character a little bit better. They also tweak his reaction to when he finds out that Alina and the Darkling potentially might have done something. And she starts to confide in him about it. He says, "It's not my business. You don't need to tell me if you don't want to." They've made his character a lot more sympathetic and a lot better than he was in the book. A lot of the fans say that series Mal and book Mal are not the same person. They are two different people because there's so much difference between them. Book Mal is very much self-centered, while series Mal seems more focused on Alina and more selfless when it comes to Alina. Another way they improved this series through the TV show is they focused more on Alina's personal growth and her letting go of the notion of her being this helpless girl who only really knows how to draw and can't handle her own, to becoming this powerful being that has all of these powers. They focus more on her just letting go of her own insecurities and her relying on other people and just being able to be self-sufficient. So I think that is a lot better than like just focusing on how she grows as a person through these huge life changes is a huge improvement. Another thing that's different in this series from the book Six of Crows is the only things that they took from the book Six of Crows is Nina and Matthias's backstory. Their story throughout the series is the backstory that we get in Six of Crows. The other characters that they adapted into this TV show, which are Kaz, Anesh, and Jesper, they kind of just use this season to introduce you to these characters and kind of get you comfortable with these three characters so that they can adapt Six of Crows into this TV show. That's really their only purpose in the first season of Shadow and Bone. With these changes and some of the improvements that they had on this series was largely because the amount of time that this series had to just sit with fans was to their benefit, to the showrunner's benefit, to the producer's benefit, to the screenwriter's benefit. They were able to look on popular social media platforms such as TikTok and Tumblr and Instagram and Facebook, things like that, that they could properly grasp what fans wanted to see adapted onto the screen, what they wanted to change a little, what they didn't like about the book, what they think could be improved upon. So the showrunners took that and really embraced it, which I think is an amazing thing for them to do. They also did a great thing of sneaking in some references that really only people who have read both of these books would be able to understand, but not too obvious to where people who haven't read the books feel like they're missing out on things, which I think worked to their benefit so much. So yeah, honestly, I think Shadow and Bone is a great book to screen adaptation. They're finishing up editing the second season right now. It's supposed to come out, I think, in March of next year. I'm very excited for it. A lot of other people are very excited for it. But as a series and as an adaptation, I would say that it is amazing and it's doing great. And I'm really excited to see how they further adapt the other two books and the other 4 books that are a part of this universe. Okay, so now we're going to talk about an adaptation that when you ask what is the worst book to screen adaptation, most people are going to say this one. And I actually said it at the beginning of this video. It is Percy Jackson. Percy Jackson is a book series written by Rick Riordan. For this, we are only looking at the first book, which is called The Lightning Thief. This whole series is called Percy Jackson and the Olympians because it is a modern retelling of the Greek and Roman gods. The summary of this book is that Percy Jackson is a 12-year-old boy who is going to this boarding school that's in upstate New York. He's always had trouble with a lot of things. He's always been known as the problem student. He has dyslexia and ADHD, so he can't really sit still. He has a hard time reading. He's just always struggled in school. And one summer, he comes to find out that the reason why he's always struggled in school is because he's actually a half-blood. He's a demigod. He goes to the Camp Half-Blood, which is located in Long Island, and it is, like it's named, a camp for demigods. It is a camp for people who are half-bloods, and they learn to fight and how to harness the powers that they're given because they have a parent who is a god. And very quickly, once Percy gets to this camp, he figures out that his godly parent is Poseidon. He's the son of Poseidon. Now this is an issue because back after World War II, the big three, which is Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades, all decided that they were no longer going to sire any children because in this world, World War II was a war between Zeus and Poseidon's kids and Hades' kids. So after that, they decided it's too dangerous for us to have kids, so we're just not going to have them. Once he figures this out, he is soon sent on a quest with his two friends, Grover and Annabeth, to go to the underworld to stop the gods from fighting because Zeus's lightning bolt was stolen, hence the name Lightning Thief. So that is a summary of the first book. This is a series, so he goes on more adventures and he figures out all of these other things that has to do with Olympus and all this other stuff, but that's not what we're focusing on. We're focusing on the Lightning Thief. So now we're gonna get into the ratings of the book and the movie. The book, The Lightning Thief, has an overall rating of 4 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. It has about 2.5 million ratings, 51% being 5 out of 5 stars, and 1% being 1 out of 5 stars. The movie, Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief, has an overall rating of a 5.8 out of 10. It has about 190,000 reviews on IMDb, with 7.5% of those reviews being 10 out of 10 stars, and 3.1 being 1 out of 10 stars. The highest percentage of rating, 25.4% being 6 out of 10 stars. So this movie sucked. It sucked major butt. It was a certified stinker. Not gonna lie. So some of the critiques that people had of this book when it first came out, before they decided to adapt it to a movie, is that it was just so similar to Harry Potter and that the ages of the characters was just a little bit too young. They thought, like Shadow and Bone, the age of these characters was just unrealistic. But honestly, I think that it makes the book series a little bit more endearing. Like, just some 12-year-olds having to deal with all of these things, it makes it a little bit more interesting. And also, this book it's a children's fiction book. It's not adult fiction or anything like that, so they're gonna be kids. It's geared towards children, so they're gonna be children. So because people thought that it was too Harry Potter-ish, it was kind of like, a lot of people were saying, oh, it's just Harry Potter but for people who really like Greek mythology, which, fair. When they decided to adapt this book to a movie, they wanted to stay far away from those claims, so they decided to age Percy up into high school, which was a huge red flag for book fans off the bat, because a major plot point within this series is Percy turning 16. So if he's already 16, where do the conflicts come from? Where did the problems come from? You can age him up just a little, or just not care about the Harry Potter claims. Stay true to the source material, because when you make that big of a change, it changes the whole story. The things that they changed was they completely cut out a lot of characters. There is the camp director, which is Dionysus. They call him Mr. D. And him being omitted changes a lot of things. It makes it to where Percy doesn't really have like a mentor type figure, except for his teacher that was from the high school. Even then, it was kind of like he was like a makeshift mentor figure, but it didn't really work out in the movies. They also made the reveal that Percy was Poseidon's son very, very early in the movie, when in the books it takes about 9 to 10 chapters to figure out for sure that Percy is Poseidon's son. They allude to it a little within the first 10 chapters, but it's never completely confirmed until the 10th chapter. Another change that they did is this book, the majority of the book is set in Camp Half-Blood. With the movie, I think maybe 20 minutes at most is set in Camp Half-Blood. That really threw off a lot of fans because something that they came to love so much about these books is Camp Half-Blood. It made people want to go to this camp so much to where I'm pretty sure there are people who have like real life versions of this camp, minus, you know, the whole you have to be a child of the god thing, but you can go and be a part of Camp Half-Blood. Like, people wanted to be in this camp so bad. They also changed the main antagonist of this book. Main antagonist is just the gods in general. Like, they are starting a war which is affecting the human world, so the gods themselves are kind of like the antagonist of everything. Mainly Hades and Ares, I'm pretty sure, are the main antagonists, but within the movie they make a character named Luke the main antagonist. They even change like the end fight. Within the book, the end fight and like the final battle of the book is Percy and Ares fighting. Well, in the movie it's Percy and Luke fighting, and Percy's way too like knowledgeable with his powers of water and stuff like that. It didn't work. This movie, Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief, it's not a good movie. It just really isn't. I'm so sorry to Logan Lerman, you did great, but it's not a good movie. One way they're trying to amend the failure that was the movie Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief is they are making it into a series on Disney+. It's supposed to come out in time in 2023. They've already started filming it. It looks very promising. They're staying true to the book a lot more. Percy is supposed to be 12. He's supposed to be in the 6th grade. They're amending the things that they did with the book, which I think is amazing, and I have very high hopes for this show. I hope that with the TV series it will shift to the list of great book to screen adaptations. The Percy Jackson movie, terrible. Book, pretty good. Series, high hopes. To finish out this video, what I'm gonna say is I think that, like I said at the beginning of the video, social media and the easy access that showrunners and screenwriters have to fan opinions and the ability for them to be able to take what the built-in audience that they are banking on want to see or don't want to see or want to change or don't want to change is to their benefit. They have seen how franchises like Percy Jackson or Divergent or Twilight even have made people fall off of a series that they loved so much, and they don't want that to happen again. So they are trying their darndest to amend all of the atrocities that they have done. I do think that book to screen adaptations are in the process of getting better. There is hope for whatever book to screen adaptation you're looking forward to in the future isn't gonna suck, and that's amazing, and I love that. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe and stuff like that, and see you next time. Bye.